guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do a video about an introduction to drawing. So I've divided the video up into different segments, and I'll first be starting off with the materials that you need for drawing, and then I'll explain about different pencil grades and why that's important. I'll also be talking about how to hold a pencil, and lastly I'll talk about different types of drawing styles. Okay, so first I'll be talking about the material equipment, and the most important is probably your paper. So right here I just have a very standard Strathmore book. It's a sketchbook. As you can tell, it says it's general purpose sketch paper. Just to let you guys know, there are different types of paper with different types of texture, so just get the paper with the texture that you want. So you can get paper that's rougher than others, and then other paper that's smooth, but it's really up to you what kind of paper you would like for your project or when you're drawing. Here I just have like a little standard case of pencils, and as you can see here, there are different types of pencil grades ranging from 8B to 4H. So I'll be talking about that later. So very important to have is a sharpener. And I like to use a ruler once in a while if I need to have a sharp edge. And then also, of course, you need an eraser. So this is just like a standard plastic eraser, but you can also use other types of erasers like kneaded erasers. So you can actually form them to make a really sharp edge that you can use to erase things. Now I'll be explaining about the different types of pencils we have. B pencils, H pencils, and your mid-tone pencils. And in a standard kit, the range is from around 8B to 4H, but it can go all the way from 10B to 10H. First, let me just explain what these different numbers mean, just so it's a little bit easier to understand. B stands for blackness, H stands for hardness, HB stands for hardness and blackness, and then you have F, which stands for fine point. Okay, and then you also have your H pencils, that stands for hardness. The lead inside the pencils are harder because they make pencils. They're not only made out of graphite, but a mixture of graphite and clay. So the more clay that's in the pencil, the lighter the outcome will be. So these H pencils have more clay in them than the B pencils. It's because they're so hard, you can easily see the lines through it, and it's really hard to blend it together. And then you also have your mid-tone range. And you have two pencils. You have the HB and you have the F. HB is just basically in the middle of the spectrum, and then F is the fine point. That just means that you're able to sharpen the pencil, so you can use it for very detailed work. The B pencils, these are just darker pencils with a softer graphite. These are really good for shading. They can have a very dark color, but because they're so soft, the tips can break very easily. So I recommend try to be careful with these pencils. Okay, so now I want to talk more about the numbering system. So as you can tell, we have way more pencils in the B range, and that's just because they're way better for shading and for creating more depth than the H scale. So you have from B or B1 all the way to 8B here. So B, 2B, 3B, and so on. The pencil that I use the most is the 2B. I just find it that when you apply different pressure that you get a really good outcome. It's different from person to person, but this is just what I prefer, and most of the people I know prefer the 2B. The lower down the scale you get, the darker the pencil will be because it has less clay in it. I rarely use the 8B because it's just so dark and it just gets so dull. It's so hard to get a really sharp point out of this pencil, but it creates a lot more depth in your drawings. Now I'll be explaining about how to hold a pencil. We use either the tip or the side. The tip is really good for precise drawing, and the side is really good for shading. Another important thing to bring in is using your wrist compared to your shoulder. Okay, so now I'm going to be shading, And as you can see here, I'm mainly only using my fingers and basically my wrist to get these short strokes. Now, if I want to get a long stroke, I can't really get that far with my wrist. And I don't have as much control. So in these cases, it's usually best to use your whole shoulder and keep your wrist still. And so for example, like this. Then you get really nice lines. And if you incorporate the overhand grip, then you get very nice shading. You can get curves, or you can go just do a straight line if you want. You have way more control doing it like this, with using your whole shoulder. Now if I try to do this with my wrist, it's harder, and I don't get as good of a range. And it's harder to keep it straight. Okay, so lastly, I'll be talking about drawing styles. And I think this is a really important topic because a lot of people think that there's only one good way of drawing, and that is drawing something realistically. But in reality, there are different types of drawing styles, and in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way of doing art. It's just however you want to express yourself. So there are different types of styles, and the one that's probably most known is hyperrealism or realism, and that is drawing something exactly how it is in real life. So for example, if we take the sphere that I drew earlier, and these shadows give the object depth, and therefore it makes it look more realistic. It makes it look like it's 3D. But then you also have, for example, cartoon drawing. And then you also have, for example, just doodling or sketching. We also have different types where it's like you only draw with one line. For example, let's just say that I'm going to draw a palm tree, and I just used one line, right? You can also do dots, dotting something down. You have architecture where you draw buildings. Yeah, there are just many different styles, and I feel like it's so important to understand the different styles and be open to different things. So hopefully you guys learned something. Please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel if you want to get more content like this. Also, leave a comment down below on what you would like to learn next. Hopefully you guys have a fun time trying out these new tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!